You are one of the few foreign players who take an active interest in women's football. For example, your support for Ellie Roebuck, the former Barcelona keeper, after her injury. When did your interest in women's football actually begin?
My interest in women's football was always there because since I joined Chelsea, it was obviously the Chelsea team was one of the pioneers of trying to create a great environment for the women's team and trying to obviously build the team to be a competitive team. So we noticed we share the training ground as well. So you have the opportunity to obviously to speak to them and discuss few things. So that was already then, but of course the most was when my daughter started playing football. Obviously, when you have your own daughter playing football, then you suddenly realize how the environment is when you start with the grassroots and school football and how you try to progress. So I got to see it from a completely different angle as well. And of course, through my connection, when I was trying to help Ellie with her recovery after a difficult situation for her. Thanks to that as well, I had the privilege to visit Barcelona training ground and to watch their training session to see how they prepare. And of course, they are one of the best teams in the world with top players. So that was nice to see it from close and as well to see a different team in a different league, because obviously I've seen Chelsea training and I've seen their games, but having had the opportunity to see Barcelona training, their approach to it, what they are doing was very interesting.
Yeah, Barcelona, they are nicknamed the Avengers of the women's football because, they are the best players currently in the world, like Aitana Bonmati, 3 times the Ballon d'Or winner, and Alexia Putellas. So I can imagine that's something completely different because Barcelona is really successful.
Yeah, it was great because, when you see already the Chelsea women team, obviously they are competing in the Champions League, they are competing in the women's Premier League, and they won it many times. There's a great history with this team. It was always pleasure to be part of when I came back to working with Chelsea. Obviously, that was one of the things I got a big interest as well, to try to help with the environment and help the team to progress. And I had a very good relation to Magda Eriksson when she was the captain of the team. And that was always good because, we had good discussions about how we can help and how the team can move forward. And obviously Emma Haynes as well was a big part in there. So, you see that, the quality of the training, the preparation, we try to, have the facilities and as well all the necessary equipment that they can obviously do their job as best as possible. And it was great to see, of course, because the women's football, the evolution of it in the last 10 years it's absolutely amazing. And of course they are still working towards getting there on every level. Of course, some leagues and some countries they do better than others, but I think in general, with the success of the Euros and the World Cups,
exactly, yeah,
it opens opportunities, and that's very important.
Yeah. To me, I think like the main event what happened for women's football was when the Lionesses won Euro in 2022 in Sold Out Wembley. For me, this is like the most important moment after women's football started to grow. Do you think?
It's all about it's about bringing more and more people to the stadiums and creating this interest. And I think, especially in the Premier in England, the teams they do it so well because Arsenal started using the Emirates, and Spurs are playing in the main stadium. Chelsea's playing in Stamford Bridge. So obviously that creates opportunity for the fans to come, and you could see every season there is a record broken for the attendance or every, that's brilliant. I think it's a great experience as well for the team, for every player, because this is what is it all about when you have a full stadium and the growth is there. And I think the Euros obviously it had the advantage of being played in England because this is a football country, and exactly. You see every stadium was full, and Sold Out Wembley was the icing on the cake.
Yeah, and it was about like the England's men team never won Euros, and the Lionesses, the women's team, they did it twice. Like.
But it shows, it shows this is a really football country, and they have great support. And as I said, the women's league have big support and create big numbers now, and is able to bring the people for the main stadiums. Like if you thought about it 10 years ago, you would think, oh, there's no way the Emirates with the capacity of 60,000 would be full, or Stamford Bridge 42,000. There's a lot of people always coming. It created a lot of interest, and I think as well, because of the successful tournaments, there's a lot of young girls who are interested in football and playing football. And before, I think, was pretty much probably the same. There was a lot of girls who might have been interested in playing football, but they didn't have the opportunity to play. There were not enough teams, or maybe not a school team. And here in England, you always have a school team, you always have grassroots teams. So they have the opportunity to play. So there's the fan base is growing, the players base is growing. And as I said, the Scandinavian teams in Sweden, especially Norway, they do really well. Denmark, they do really well, and it's everywhere now. When you see the level of even the Czech women's football, it's growing up. The league is getting better. The top teams are getting better. They compete better in the European competitions, and it will help the national team as well. They are so close to qualifying few times.
Twice.
And it's a shame it didn't happen. I was so glad to get them there, but then obviously the last step was missing. But they are getting there, and I think that this generation of the players will initially, break through, and it will be great.
If you started to speak about Czechia, we broke the attendance on the league last year in May. It was more than 6,000, which is like not that big compared to Germany, Sweden or England, but it's growing. Even though that the Czech national team never took part on the Euro or the World Cup, which would help, of course, but the steps are here.
No, I think if you see how the infrastructure and the strength of the leagues are, for example, as I said, Scandinavian leagues. Do you have obviously Germany, Spain, England? That's where the best players are at the moment, and so more players we manage to get through the Champions League to the big teams. Then obviously it will keep helping the Czech national team and hopefully they will qualify one day. It would be great, but I think you see there has been a huge progress in last year, so I believe there's a great opportunity for them to do it.
Speaking of Champions League, I am really glad for women's football that now there is a new competition called Europa Cup, and now your former club, Sparta Prague, the women's team, they made great success because they lost at home 3-0, and they came back to back and won for free, and they advanced back to the quarterfinals. So it's small steps, but it helps the women's football. Even in the small countries, we are not that advanced in women's football as England.
Yes, and then you compete with obviously a different world in terms of the financial opportunities and obviously the infrastructure. So, but you have to start somewhere. So it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen just like that. There will be a lot of work to be done and a lot of support from the FA and other people. But it's great, like little steps like this will create obviously more interest and even will create the opportunity for better players to come in, and then more you have better players and foreign players who have experience and who can actually show the homegrown players to say, okay, this is the level when I played top league. This is the level that we expected in the European Cup, and it gives you motivation. Like when I played for international teams like Chelsea with top stars, Arsenal top stars, you suddenly realize, okay, this is the level. This is the level. If I want to be there, this is actually the level. And sometimes you don't see it or you don't get it until you actually experience that. And playing the European Cup it's the great opportunity to see where the world is, where the Europe is, where the other teams are, and then you suddenly realize, okay, they are much better technically, I have to work on that. Oh, they are much better physically, I have to work on that. They are much better tactically, we have to work on that. So it's kind of like an eye-opening, and it gives you a motivation to work for the future. So more European experiences for Czech teams. I think that's gonna be more benefit even for the national team.
Let's get back to your active career. When you joined Arsenal, it was already at a time where the women's team already won a Champions League. It was in 2007. Of course, it wasn't the same form as now, but still they were European champions, the only club in England. Was there the sense that the club has such a successful women's team? It was the time where they didn't play on the Emirates yet, but there were names like Leah Williams, and she was really young back then, but Kim Little, the captain, and of course the legend Alex Scott. Have you feel it, or when you were in Arsenal as active player, that you have that successful women's team?
Yeah, the first we shut the training ground again. So we obviously when we're in the gym, sometimes in the morning, you sort of cross the paths with the women's team. So it's nice. You can talk to them, and you get to discuss how they are doing, and so that was nice. Secondly, the Arsenal is one of the first teams in England who really run the women's team on a kind of like a structured level. And that's why they were winning at the beginning, and of course the others tried to catch them up and get and get at the same level. So you always need a team like that. You always need someone, and the tradition was there, and it's great to see obviously that it's growing not only there, it's growing everywhere. So, but you could feel it. You could feel that the women's team was there and was established, and they had some advantage over others.
When you retired from your active career, you worked in Chelsea's management. How did you feel about the growth of women's football from the other side, from the club's perspective?
The clubs spend a lot of effort and a lot of time helping, developing the facilities for the Chelsea women's team, and of course the infrastructure as well. So obviously we try to make it as even as possible for the women's team to have obviously all the opportunity to be performant, to have the right amount of the physio and all the stuff you need to perform.
Okay.
Simply as that. So the coaching staff had obviously a big opportunity to help us to create that. Emma Haynes was really important in that. And obviously you have the department, the sports science department. They started having the sports science department, and it involved in every aspect. And this is what you want to see. You want to step by step make sure that obviously the environment and the facilities are at the top level as well, because they are top level athletes and they play top competition. So you want them to have the same facilities and access to to be as on the top level as possible.
You mentioned Emma Hayes, super successful, very successful former manager. How much do you think she influenced the club? Because her era in Chelsea with Magda Eriksson as captain was super successful.
They were super successful because they were really doing the right things. They had the right support, and they were driven by success. And of course, Emma lived that experience with Arsenal, then came over to Chelsea. So that sort of give Chelsea the opportunity to work with someone who have the experience of winning trophies and knowing how the environment should look. And of course, with the support of the club, and that I have to say, that was really good to see how the club supported the team. Then obviously they started building everything they needed to compete, and then suddenly started competing with Manchester City, with Arsenal, and then suddenly it became really interesting to watch how these teams fight in between them. And of course, then Man United started doing the same thing. Now we have Spurs and everybody, Aston Villa, and everybody is now actually West Ham and Liverpool, and everybody is now pushing and trying to be competitive. So that league became really competitive, and you can see that the amount of international players playing in the league, and that's what you want to see. This is where you actually see the progress. Where maybe before you would say that the top players would rather go to Germany or they would rather go to Spain. Now, obviously, that's a different story. They love coming in to Premier League and obviously make the league better.
Yeah, we talked about like Chelsea women playing on Stamford Bridge or Arsenal women playing for on the Emirates. But to me, this is like the big clubs. They should be like the pioneers of it. But the big step was when Everton let their women's team play on the big stadium, you know, because like Everton is smaller compared to Manchester teams or Chelsea and Arsenal. And like this is how this was the big step. I can tell you example from Czechia. There is Slavia. I think in Czech league they're the most successful team now. They won domestic double. And they have a banner on their stadium, and they are both like women's and men's team, and it was a huge step for women's football in Czech Republic.
Nothing is about the exposure of it because obviously there will be always a debate. People always love to compare and debate. You can't really because the history of football, obviously the men's football is a huge part of the history, and all these phases the women's football is going now through. The men's football have already behind because they've been there before and they had time to work on it and improve. So obviously the advantage women's football have that now the facilities and the know-how is there. So obviously if you allow the same possibility of progress and the facilities, the coaching and the education, then you have obviously then you can speed track and this is what's happening. It's really happening and you can clearly see it is going like from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you can see every 5 years period is like a huge evolution in there, and it will continue to be like that, of course. And I think what really is important as well that you have probably more and more people coming to watch the game from the women football perspective. So you don't try to compare it if it's the same speed or same strength, or if somebody jumps that high, or as you are used to with the men's football. It's a completely different. It's a completely two different things. So, but when you see the technical and tactical abilities, the skills, the goals, the creativity, this is what you can compare. And the games are becoming more and more competitive. The games are becoming more and more entertaining, and as well when you have these Euros, when you have these big tournaments and top teams playing each other, you can really see it's a very good football to watch, and this is now I think where a lot of fans actually come there to watch that, not to really go there and try to compare if it was that or that. No, I think this is where the biggest progress I see is because then the fans are coming to the stadiums and they don't try to compare, but they go there because they enjoy the level of the football they watch.
Exactly, that was my next question, because like people who want to make fun of women's football or talk harshly, there are like tons of YouTube videos who make fun of women's football. And do you feel that women are often more criticized for things that happens in men's football as well? For example, like goalkeepers' mistakes tend to be judged more harshly. Do you see it or do you feel it?
Well, it depends. I think it depends on people. Sometimes, the men teams, they are criticized as well. That's always, there'll always be something like that. But as I said, the understanding that there is a significant difference between men and women in terms of physical ability, you cannot deny.
Exactly.
And the reality is, of course, when you look at track and field, and if you have the Olympic Games, of course, Usain Bolt is not running with the women in the competition, because there is not because they would not be there at their elite level as their elite athletes, but of course, there is a physical differences between male and female. So you can't compare it. So if you forget that part and you just go to the game and watch it from the perspective of the tactical ability, technical ability, the understanding, the way the team plays, the organization, then you're gonna enjoy it, because this is a really top level, and you can see the players are really skilled, and they can really play. Now the tactical awareness, obviously, as the game progresses, you can see it's there as well. So sometimes it's really interesting to watch, and I think that's something I always feel completely unnecessary. And of course there were a few examples that didn't help in the past, because obviously they were boys team playing against the elite women team, and it's difficult.
Yeah.
And if the result came one way, or that it looked a little bit like, let's say for people who look like, oh, they lost against boys, and should we really go to watch or no? I think this is something that is not necessarily helping as well. So, but it's the perspective how you look at this. If you look at this and you say, yeah, these two completely different categories, but I look at this as a football person who can clearly see the technical ability, and as I said, the skills and the quality of the game. Some of the women football are, because of the fact that it's not as fast, there is a lot of technical abilities, and you can see the players who have the pass, who have the vision, and some actions, some goals, some actually plays during the matches are really interesting, which is nice, because it might not happen in the men's football because everything goes too fast and maybe there's no time for that. So everything has its own magic, and I have to say football always is always football, no matter the way it is played.
Yeah, that was. I think that the reason why the women's football is that popular in England is that women's football here is focused on people who didn't watch football until they met women's football, because they don't compare, and this is like a new group who watch sports, and it's like women's football is their like #1 sport, because they don't compare, like, is it quicker, is it like better?
I think what the team do well, obviously now playing big stadium, now you have the advantage of social media, so you can sort of relate to new fans over the social media. You create some sort of connection to people who probably never watch football, but they suddenly go, oh, this it looks like an interesting team, and they do nice things, and I watch to see the inside of how they train and what they do, and so you can present it completely different way. So you attract more and more supporters, and then obviously once you get dragged into it, then you watch games, and then you suddenly become a supporter, and then suddenly realize how much effort and how many hours, and how much sacrifice it goes into any sport. And if you want to be in the top level, it applies on every sport, no matter who you are. Then you have to work hard, and you have to put your energy, and you need to have some talent, of course, and determination, and you can clearly see you can really appreciate it.
Yeah, in the beginning you mentioned your daughter, who plays for Fulham, isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah. What would you wish for her and the girls in her age in terms of the future of women's football, not only in England but in Europe or in the world in general?
Well, generally, I wish that the girls who decide to play football, they have the same opportunity to have the coach, to have the facility, and to actually have the time to play, to practice and play. That's sometimes the difficulty, because sometimes you don't have enough coaches, and so it had to be some parent at the beginning or someone, and you just feel like, okay, it would be actually, in the future, it would be actually really good if you have the access to facilities and the coaching the same way, because then obviously that accelerates the progress, and that actually give them the best opportunity to go all the way if they put enough effort, and if they have the talent to do so.
Yeah, what about the role models? Because, for example, when the Lionesses won the Euro, I feel this is a really important part, because, for example, I'm 25, and when I played football as a little girl, I didn't know about women's football. I only read article about Marta, and it was all I knew, but not the girls who are little now and they are playing football. They already know about Leah Williamson, and Alessia Russo. They can have a role model.
You need role models. I think you need superstars. You need role models in any sport, in any environment, because then you have someone to look up to. And as I said, thanks to the technology, and obviously more games being live on TV, the big tournaments live on TV, the access you can get to the stadiums, more people you bring in, then obviously the exposure is bigger, and then people have better awareness about it, and then you grow your fan base, you grow your players base as well, and then this is how you sort of guarantee the future of the game. And I think women's football is the most growing sport in terms of the base and the number of players, because you have so many little girls now, being in a position where they go, yeah, I would love to play football. I would love to try.
Yeah, they know it's possible that they can grow up and become a professional. It wasn't.
So now they have the pathway, they have the opportunity. So I think that's what counts the most.
Okay. Do you have any favorite goalkeeper you like to watch in women's football?
No, I had the opportunity to watch and to see the Chelsea women goalkeepers train. So when Hedvig Lindahl was there,
Swedish fan.
when Zecira Musovic was there, obviously Hannah Hampton. Now, obviously, she won the female player of the year.
Yeah.
We got the recognition for it, which is brilliant. I think her story as well on its own is
Exactly.
it's very interesting with the way she has problems with the vision, but she overcome all that. So yeah, that's I was lucky to see them work, and I would say that to want to work with it's difficult to say, but Ann-Katrin Berger as well. She was there. I think that was one of the goalkeepers I like watching, because she can do everything as well, and she was obviously a senior figure as well there at Chelsea. So yeah, I think we always had brilliant goalkeepers there. So I was lucky to watch them train, and I have to say the program and the goalkeeping coach in that team was really top level. So I think they enjoy training there as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like Ann-Katrin Berger, she is now a champion in American League. You mentioned Hannah Hampton. She has her story. It's one of the strongest stories I have heard in women's football. And we also have an article on Queenballers about her, because doctor told her when she was little she shouldn't do sports, and now she won Euros and domestic treble with Chelsea.
I think I think stories like that obviously give you the hope that no matter where you come from, and you can actually make it. That it's up to you. How much do you want it? How much do you spend time? Of course, some people are unlucky in a way that they might have be born a certain way that they can't. Yeah? But if you can, then obviously it's only up to you how far you take it.
Exactly. Peter, last question. If you had to choose, would you rather stay in the goal in Premier League now or against the Lionesses in penalty shootout?
To be honest, I would probably take the Premier League.
Yeah. Would you be scared if strikers like Alessandro?
No, I think it's the same. No, it's the same, because the players, like from the penalty spot, it's not about power, it's about precision.
Yeah.
So you have sometimes, it's exactly the same. If the player takes the penalty well and it's precise, then obviously you don't save it.
Okay, Petr, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.